The sun rose over Etria, painting the city with soft orange and gold. The palace gardens were quiet now, the morning dew sparkling on the leaves. Princess Alira walked along the stone paths thinking about the events of the day before. Her father, Emperor Voran, had spent the morning speaking with council members about the colony's productivity. He spoke with authority and precision, as if nothing in the galaxy could challenge him. Yet Alira could not stop thinking about Mark. Mark was not in the gardens, and that worried her. He had been quiet all morning, focused on something she did not yet understand. When she reached the western courtyard, she found a small pile of tools and notes, carefully arranged as if by invisible hands. A folded map rested on top, showing streets, rooftops, and supply lines across the city. Her eyes widened. Mark appeared behind her, calm and collected. "I thought it would be easier to plan in the open," he said. His green eyes were steady and sharp. "The city is not as simple as it seems. The Thalorians believe they control everything, but they do not notice small cracks. We can use those cracks." Alira looked at him in surprise. "Cracks, you mean in the streets or in their plans?" "Both," Mark replied. "Every empire has weaknesses. Every rule has a way to be tested. I only need to know how far humans can go without breaking." Alira felt a thrill of fear and excitement. Mark had always seemed gentle, harmless, but now she saw a new side of him. There was patience, yes, but also a quiet fire that could not be ignored. She realized that the Thalorians were right in one thing. He seemed harmless, but that was only on the surface. Hours later, the city was stirred by unexpected sounds. Guards shouted orders as smoke rose from a distant street. Alira and Mark watched from the balcony. At first, it seemed like an accident, but then she noticed the pattern. Supply wagons were being stopped, small bridges were closed, and the communication lines of the Thalorians were disrupted. No one knew who was behind it. Mark knelt beside a small crate, checking his tools. "It is working," he said quietly. "The humans are learning. They are noticing opportunities, small chances to act." Alira frowned. "Are you responsible for this?" Mark shook his head. "Not entirely. I only guided them. Humans have always had this ability. They adapt. They resist. I only show them how to focus." The palace bells rang urgently. Emperor Voran's voice echoed through the city, calling soldiers to the gates. Alira saw the fear in the guards' eyes. Something unusual had happened. Mark stood calmly observing as if he knew exactly what to do next. "Stay close," he said to Alira. "Do not show fear." They watched the reactions of others more than the actions themselves. Alira nodded, but her heart raced.
She had never felt fear like this before, nor had she felt pride so strongly.
Her husband was quiet, small, and gentle, yet he moved with the certainty of a leader, and somehow she trusted him completely. The first direct challenge came near the central plaza. Thalorian soldiers had been transporting food and medical supplies when their convoy stopped. A small group of human workers emerged from the shadows. They did not carry weapons, only tools and farming implements, yet they moved with precision. They cut the harnesses of wagons, redirected the drivers, and vanished before the soldiers could react. Alira gasped. "They are brave," she whispered. Mark smiled faintly. "They are more than brave. They are human." The council met again in the palace hall, tense and silent. Reports poured in from across the city. Minor sabotage, supplies gone missing, unexpected resistance. The Thalorian generals were frustrated. They demanded immediate action, but no one knew where to start. Alira could not help but notice Mark in the corner of the hall, calm and attentive. He did not speak, yet he listened to every word. When a general mentioned the human workers, Mark's eyes flickered. He knew exactly who they were. He had trained them, guided them, and inspired them to act without revealing his hand. That evening, the palace streets were tense. Patrols doubled, checkpoints were established, and hovering ships scanned the city. Yet the humans continued their quiet rebellion. They moved through alleys, delivered messages, and disrupted supplies. They were small and hidden, but their actions had a growing impact. Alira walked beside Mark along the palace walls. She felt a mix of fear and admiration. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you remain calm when everything is so dangerous?" Mark looked at her and smiled. "Because danger is not always what it seems. Fear is loud and obvious, but courage is quiet. Humans have courage. That is why they survive." Alira shivered. She had always thought of humans as weak, fragile, and dependent. Now she saw them differently. She saw determination, cleverness, and strength that could not be measured in armor or ships. And she saw Mark as the symbol of that strength. The next morning brought a new challenge. A large shipment of weapons had arrived from a neighboring planet, meant to reinforce Thalorian control. Mark had anticipated this. He had already marked the shipment's path on the map, studied the guards' patrols, and prepared a team of humans to act. Alira followed him as he moved through hidden passages under the city. The tunnels were dark and damp, but Mark navigated them easily. They emerged near the supply depot, just as the humans began their work. Alira watched in amazement. The humans worked together without speaking loudly. Some disabled the transport vehicles, others cut the energy lines, and a few guided the shipment into hidden storage areas. Everything happened quickly and efficiently. The Thalorians noticed too late. Guards arrived, but the humans had vanished. Alira could hardly believe what she saw. Mark approached her and handed her a small device. "This will help you understand," he said. She watched as he activated it. A holographic map appeared, showing the city, the supply routes, and the movements of both humans and Thalorians. "The humans are learning to act together," Mark explained. "They are not just reacting. They are planning. They are becoming something more than the Empire expected." Alira nodded, amazed. "It is like watching a spark grow into a fire." Mark smiled. "Yes, and soon the fire will spread." That night the palace was restless. Emperor Vorin demanded answers, but no one could provide them. Reports came in of further disruptions, all small but meaningful. Food shortages were mild but persistent. Communication lines were unreliable. Every attempt to regain control was met with subtle resistance. Alira stayed in her chambers thinking about Mark. He had always been calm, patient, and gentle. But now she understood that he had been preparing for this quietly, teaching humans to act, to resist, and to survive. He had not sought power. He had only sought to awaken courage in others. Mark came to her later that night. He carried no weapons, only a small satchel with notes and tools. "The humans will rest tonight," he said softly. "They need to recover. Tomorrow will be another day and they will be ready." Alira took his hand. "I never realized how strong humans could be," she admitted. "I thought they were weak, fragile, and easy to control. But now I see they are extraordinary." Mark's eyes glimmered. "They are more than extraordinary. They are capable of hope, courage, and change. The Empire underestimates that. That is their mistake." Alira felt a warmth in her chest. She had married a man the galaxy thought harmless, and yet he was quietly changing everything. He was teaching humans to be more than they had ever been. He was showing them that courage was stronger than fear, and that cleverness could defeat brute power. Outside, the city slept under the watchful eyes of Thalorian patrols. Inside the palace, the first true stirrings of defiance had begun, and in the quiet of the night, Princess Alira realized something important. Her husband was not harmless. He was a quiet revolution waiting to grow. As Mark prepared for sleep, he looked at the stars through the palace window. He did not speak, but his mind was active. Plans, possibilities, and opportunities moved like constellations across his thoughts. He was patient as always, but he knew that soon the galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of. Alira watched him, her heart full of admiration and hope. She had married a man the Empire underestimated. She had married a man who could ignite change without raising a weapon. And she knew that the galaxy would remember this quiet human, not as harmless, but as the spark that began something extraordinary. And so, the spark of defiance spread through Etria. Hidden yet powerful, small yet impossible to ignore. The humans had learned to act, to resist, and to grow stronger every day. And at the center of it all was Mark, the peaceful husband who had quietly become the heart of a growing storm. The city of Etria had changed. On the surface it looked calm. The white stone streets gleamed in the sunlight. Birds sang in the palace gardens, and the distant hum of flying ships made the city feel alive. Yet beneath that calm, something remarkable was happening. The humans of Etria were no longer just surviving. They were organizing, learning, and acting together. Princess Alira walked along the palace walls with Mark. She watched the people below, noticing small groups moving purposefully through the alleys. They carried crates, tools, and small devices, but they moved silently, carefully, without drawing attention. Their movements were coordinated, precise, and clever. Alira felt a growing pride and surprise. Humans were not just adapting. They were becoming something the Thalorians had never expected. "They are learning faster than I imagined," Mark said quietly. "Humans have always adapted when cornered, but now they are connecting. They are helping each other. They are discovering that unity is stronger than fear." Alira nodded. "It is amazing. And you taught them this?" Mark shook his head. "I only guided them. Humans have courage on their own. I only showed them where to focus." Alira noticed how calm he was. Where she felt worry, he felt strategy. Where she saw danger, he saw opportunity. That calm confidence was contagious. She realized that he was not just her husband. He was the spark of something larger. That evening, Mark moved through hidden paths beneath the city. The tunnels were narrow, dark, and damp, but he navigated them easily. He carried a small satchel filled with maps, notes, and tools. Alira followed him, keeping close. She had never been in these tunnels before. The walls were rough stone, and the air smelled of earth and quiet water. They reached a hidden chamber far under the city. Inside, dozens of humans were gathered. Farmers, workers, mechanics, and even a few young children. Everyone moved efficiently, organizing supplies, discussing strategies, and sharing information. It was not chaos. It was a network, carefully planned and guided. Mark stepped forward. "Good evening," he said. His voice was calm but carried authority. The humans looked up, respectful, but not fearful. They trusted him. "Tonight we prepare for tomorrow. The Thalorians will try to regain control. We must be ready." A young worker, no more than 16, nodded. "We are ready, Mark. We have followed your instructions, and everything is in place." Mark smiled faintly. "Excellent. But remember, readiness is more than tools. It is knowledge, patience, and awareness. Watch the streets. Observe patterns. Learn from every move they make." Alira watched him. He did not shout. He did not make demands. He guided quietly, showing each person how to think, how to act, and how to be smart in a dangerous world. She realized that this was true strength. It was not power taken by force. It was power grown in people's hearts. The humans spread out across the city that night. Some monitored Thalorian patrols from rooftops. Others moved supplies through secret paths. A few created small distractions to confuse the guards. Every action was calculated, small and precise. And every action was successful. The Thalorians were confused, frustrated, and unaware of the true source of the problem. Alira stayed with Mark in the shadows, watching. She saw the pride in his eyes, but also the care. He was not reckless. Every human was valuable. Every life mattered. He was building something bigger than himself, something that would last beyond a single night or a single city. By morning, the effects of the human network were clear. Supply lines were disrupted. Patrols moved slowly and carefully, unsure where the next challenge would come from. Communication signals were interfered with, making coordination difficult for the Thalorians. And in the middle of it all, the humans moved quietly, efficiently, and courageously. Emperor Voran called a council meeting. Reports poured in from across the city. Supplies missing, communication failing, small acts of sabotage everywhere. The generals were angry. They demanded answers. How could humans, who were supposed to be simple and weak, cause such problems? Alira watched from the balcony as Mark appeared at her side. He did not need to speak. She could feel the strategy behind his calm expression. He had taught them how to act, and they had taken his guidance further than anyone could have imagined. "They are extraordinary," she whispered. Mark nodded. "Humans have always been extraordinary. They only need a reason to act and guidance to focus. What you see is just the beginning." The next day, Mark led a small group through the city's lower districts. He moved carefully, pointing out new routes and methods to transport supplies without detection. Humans of all ages followed him, listening and learning. Each one had a task, and each task contributed to the growing network. Alira followed, observing quietly. She saw a young boy guide a supply wagon through a hidden alley. An older woman, carefully adjusted a small device that disrupted patrol signals. Everyone had a role, and everyone understood the importance of their work. At one point, a Thalorian patrol approached. Alira held her breath. The humans froze. But Mark raised his hand slightly. The patrol passed by, unaware of the network operating around them. Alira realized that Mark's calm authority was more powerful than any weapon. The humans trusted him, and even danger seemed to bend around his strategy. By nightfall, the network had grown larger. Humans from different districts connected through hidden paths, sharing information, supplies, and warnings. They were not just resisting. They were learning, adapting, and improving. Alira could feel the energy of hope, courage, and determination spreading like fire through the city. Mark returned to the hidden chamber beneath the city. He gathered the humans and spoke quietly, but firmly. "We have made progress," he said. "The Thalorians are confused. They do not understand our network, our unity, or our courage. Tomorrow we will grow stronger. We will act with purpose. And remember, our goal is not destruction. Our goal is freedom, knowledge, and survival." The humans nodded. They understood. They were not just acting blindly. They were learning to think, to adapt, and to act together. They were becoming something the Thalorians could not imagine. Alira watched from the shadows. She felt a mix of admiration, pride, and hope. She realized that humans were not weak, fragile, or simple. They were clever, courageous, and capable of extraordinary things when guided and inspired. The next morning, reports from across the city confirmed the strength of the network. Supplies had been redirected to safe locations. Patrols moved slowly, cautious and uncertain. The Thalorian generals could not understand how humans could act with such intelligence and precision. Every attempt to regain control failed, and the humans continued to grow stronger, more connected, and more confident. Alira stood beside Mark on the balcony. She watched the city below, filled with small but powerful actions of ordinary humans. She saw hope, courage, and determination in every movement. And she realized that her husband, the quiet, gentle man she had married, was at the heart of this growing force. "They are learning faster than I expected," she said softly. Mark smiled faintly. "They are learning because they must. Humans always adapt. And once they understand their own strength, nothing can stop them. The Empire underestimates them. That is their mistake." Alira felt a surge of hope. She had married a man who was quiet, kind, and gentle. But she now understood that his patience, his guidance, and his understanding of human potential were far more powerful than the weapons, armies, or technology of the Thalorian Empire. The sun set over Etria, casting long shadows across the city. The humans rested for the night, preparing for another day of careful resistance and growth. The network was stronger, more connected, and more confident. And at the center of it all was Mark, the peaceful husband who had quietly become a leader, a teacher, and the spark of a growing movement. Princess Alira watched him, her heart full of admiration and pride. She knew that the Empire would soon realize the strength of humans, but it would be too late. The network was already in motion. The humans had learned to act together, to think strategically, and to resist. Mark looked at the stars through the small window of the chamber. He did not speak, but his mind was alive with possibilities. Plans, strategies, and opportunities moved through his thoughts like constellations. He was patient, as always, but he knew the time was coming, when the humans would act on a larger scale. Alira realized that she was witnessing history in the making. Her husband was not just a peaceful man. He was a quiet revolution, growing stronger every day. And the humans of Etria were learning to rise with him, proving that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most powerful empire. And so the human network continued to grow, hidden yet unstoppable, small yet impossible to ignore. The Thalorians could not see the force that was rising beneath their feet. And at the heart of it was Mark, the man the galaxy had underestimated, quietly teaching humans the true power of their own strength. The sky above Etria was gray and tense, Flying ships moved silently in patrol formation, their engines humming like distant thunder. The Thalorian Empire had finally realized that the humans were no longer harmless. Reports of sabotage, disrupted supply lines, and unexpected resistance had reached the High Council. They were angry, confused, and eager to crush the uprising before it spread further. Princess Alira stood on the balcony of the palace. Her heart raced as she looked at the horizon. "They are coming," she whispered. Her green eyes met Mark's calm gaze. He stood beside her, hands folded, observing the sky. There was no fear in his expression, only focus. "They are prepared," he said. "But so are we," Alira frowned. "Prepared how?" "The Thalorian fleet is enormous. We have barely anything to defend ourselves." Mark smiled faintly. "We have something stronger than their numbers. We have humans who are brave, clever, and united. That is more powerful than the largest fleet." Below them, the human network was already in motion. Streets that once carried carts and wagons were now filled with hidden barricades, carefully camouflaged pits, and decoy pathways. Supply depots had been moved, hidden beneath buildings and tunnels. Communication lines had been altered, making it difficult for the Thalorians to coordinate their attack. Every action was precise, every detail calculated. Alira followed Mark as he moved through the city. He checked the placement of barricades, observed the positions of sentries, and ensured that every human knew their role. Some were stationed on rooftops with simple but effective devices to signal allies. Others were ready to disable Thalorian drones using tools that Mark had helped design. "They are small, but they are ready," Mark said. "The Thalorians may have weapons, but we have strategy, coordination, and courage. That is enough." Alira nodded, trying to steady her breathing. She had never seen anything like this. Humans, guided by a quiet husband who the Empire thought was harmless, were about to face the full force of Thaloria. She realized that Mark's calmness was contagious. For the first time, she felt that they might actually succeed. The first wave of ships appeared on the horizon just before noon. They glinted in the sunlight, massive and imposing. Thalorian banners fluttered in the wind as the fleet approached. Soldiers marched through the streets, confident and proud, expecting little resistance. Mark moved to the center of the city, where the main barricades had been set. Humans gathered around him, carrying tools, devices, and small weapons. He spoke quietly, giving instructions and encouragement. "Remember," he said, "we are not just defending ourselves. We are showing them that courage and cleverness can overcome brute force. Stay calm, stay aware, trust each other." The humans nodded, their faces determined. They had practiced for weeks under Mark's guidance. They had learned to adapt, to act as one, and to turn the city itself into their weapon. As the Thalorian fleet entered the city's airspace, the humans began their first coordinated action. Rooftop devices emitted flashes of light and signals, confusing the ship sensors. Barricades redirected soldiers into dead ends. Hidden traps disabled small patrol vehicles. Every move was deliberate, precise, and effective. Alira watched in awe. The humans were acting like a single organism, each part aware of the others. Even though they were smaller and less equipped, their coordination made them seem unstoppable. Mark moved through the streets with calm determination. He guided groups, checked positions, and adjusted plans as the battle unfolded. He did not fight recklessly, but his presence inspired confidence. Every human who saw him acted with focus, courage, and cleverness. The first clash occurred near the central plaza. A group of Thalorian soldiers advanced toward a barricade, expecting little resistance. Humans emerged from hidden positions using makeshift weapons and clever distractions. They disarmed the soldiers, redirected them into traps, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The soldiers were confused and frustrated, unable to understand how such small and seemingly harmless humans could act with such precision. Alira moved alongside Mark, helping where she could. She handed supplies, directed groups, and encouraged those who were nervous. She realized that even she had become part of the network. The city was no longer just a place to live. It was a battlefield, a test of courage, and a proving ground for human ingenuity. The battle continued throughout the afternoon. Flying drones swooped through the streets only to be disabled by simple but effective tools. Soldiers advanced only to find their paths blocked or their equipment rendered useless. The humans acted with patience, intelligence, and unity. Every action slowed the Thalorian advance, making them frustrated and unsure. At one point, a massive transport ship hovered over the city, releasing troops into the streets. Alira felt her heart race. She knew that this could be the turning point. Mark, however, remained calm. He had anticipated this move. He directed small teams to block the landing zones with barricades and traps. Other teams created distractions, drawing the Thalorian soldiers away from critical points. Humans guided supplies and reinforcements through hidden paths, ensuring that they were always ready for the next challenge. By evening, the Thalorians realized that they were facing more than just humans. They were facing a coordinated, clever, and determined force that could anticipate their moves and respond with precision. Frustration grew among the soldiers and generals. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. Alira watched from a high balcony as Mark moved through the chaos, calm and focused. He did not shout orders. He did not raise his voice. He acted with quiet authority, guiding the humans and ensuring that every action was effective. She realized that this was true power, not brute strength or advanced technology, but the ability to inspire, guide, and organize. The night fell, and the battle slowed. The humans rested, repositioned, and prepared for the next phase. The Thalorian fleet had retreated slightly, unable to regain control. The city was battered but still standing, and the humans had proven that they could act together, resist, and adapt. Mark gathered the humans in a hidden chamber beneath the city. He spoke quietly with pride and calm authority. Tonight we have shown them that courage, intelligence, and unity are more powerful than fear and force. But this is only the beginning. The Empire will return. They will bring more ships, more soldiers, and more weapons. We must remain vigilant. We must continue to act together, and we must never forget our strength. The humans nodded, tired but inspired. They had learned that small, careful actions could have a large impact. They had learned to trust each other, to observe and to adapt. And they had learned that Mark, their quiet leader, could guide them in ways that even the Empire could not predict. Alira stayed with him after the meeting. "I never realized humans could be this strong," she said softly. "I thought they were fragile, weak, and easy to control." Mark smiled faintly. "They are stronger than anyone expects. They only need guidance, courage, and the chance to act. The Empire underestimated them, and that is why they will fail." Alira looked out at the city, now quiet under the night sky. Fires from small clashes burned softly in the distance. The humans rested, but their energy and determination were growing. She realized that this quiet, gentle husband of hers was not just leading them. He was inspiring them to become something greater than they had ever imagined. The next morning, reports came in that the Thalorian fleet had withdrawn to regroup. Supply lines were disrupted, soldiers were frustrated, and the humans of Etria had gained confidence and momentum. They had faced a powerful enemy and survived. They had learned to act together, to adapt and to resist. Alira stood beside Mark on the palace balcony. "They will return," she said quietly. Mark nodded. "Yes, but we will be ready. Humans do not give up easily. We adapt, we resist, and we grow stronger with every challenge. The Empire cannot break that." Alira felt hope and pride. She had married a man the galaxy considered harmless, and yet he had quietly become the center of a movement that was changing the course of history. He had shown her that courage, intelligence, and unity could defeat fear and force. He had shown her that humans were extraordinary. The sun rose over Atria, casting golden light across the city. The humans prepared for the next phase, stronger and more connected than ever. At the heart of it all was Mark, calm, patient, and determined. He was the peaceful husband who had quietly become the spark of a storm, a leader who inspired courage, and a teacher who showed humans their true strength. Princess Alira watched him, her heart full of admiration and hope. The Thalorian Empire had underestimated humans. They had underestimated her husband. And now, the galaxy was beginning to see what true courage and determination could achieve. The storm of humanity had begun, quiet but unstoppable, and the Empire would never be the same again. The city of Etria was quiet in the early morning, but the air was tense. The Thalorian Empire had regrouped overnight. Their fleet, larger and stronger than before, hovered above the city, casting long shadows across the streets. Soldiers marched through the plazas, confident and organized. They believed that this time the humans would not resist. Princess Alira stood on the balcony of the palace, her hand resting on the railing. Her green eyes scanned the city below. She saw small groups of humans moving through alleys and rooftops, ready for whatever was coming. She felt a mix of pride, hope, and fear. The humans were ready, but the Empire had not been defeated yet. Mark stood beside her, calm as always. He did not look at the fleet above. Instead, he focused on the city, on the humans, and on the network they had built. "They are strong," he said quietly. "But so are we. Humans have learned, adapted, and grown. Today we show the Empire what courage and unity can do." Alira turned to him. "And what if they win? What if the Empire crushes us?" Mark shook his head gently. "They will not. The humans of Etria are not just defending themselves. They are fighting for their dignity, their freedom, and their right to exist. That cannot be crushed by numbers alone. We act together and we are unstoppable." The humans had gathered at key points across the city. Each group had a role. Some watched the skies, ready to disrupt the fleet. Others blocked the streets, slowed the soldiers, and guided civilians to safety. Small teams were stationed in hidden locations, ready to strike at supply lines or disable communications. Every human knew what to do, and every action was carefully coordinated. Alira moved through the city with Mark, observing the preparations. She saw young children carrying messages, older workers operating hidden devices, and families helping each other move safely through dangerous areas. The humans were not just fighting. They were protecting, learning, and growing stronger together. The first wave of the attack came just after noon. Thalorian ships swooped down, releasing troops into the streets. Soldiers advanced confidently, expecting little resistance. But the humans of Etria were ready. Rooftop teams used devices to blind and confuse sensors. Barricades redirected soldiers into traps. Hidden pitfalls slowed their advance. Small teams disabled drones with clever tools and devices. Every move was precise, planned, and effective. The Thalorians were frustrated, unable to understand how a population they thought harmless could resist so effectively. Alira watched from a high balcony as Mark moved among the humans. He did not shout or raise his voice. He guided them with quiet authority, giving small instructions and adjustments where needed. His calm presence inspired confidence and courage. The humans moved as if one mind guided them, acting with skill, intelligence, and unity. The battle spread across the city. Every street, every alley, and every rooftop became part of the resistance. The humans used their knowledge of the city to their advantage. They knew hidden paths, secret tunnels, and ways to move supplies without being seen. Even the Thalorian fleet, powerful as it was, struggled to respond to these clever tactics. At one point, a massive Thalorian ship hovered over the central plaza, releasing soldiers to take control. Alira felt her heart race. This could be the decisive moment. Mark, however, remained calm. He had anticipated this move. He directed teams to block the landing zones with barricades and traps. Other teams created distractions to draw soldiers away from critical points. Humans guided supplies and reinforcements through secret passages, always staying one step ahead. Alira realized that Mark's strategy was not just about defense. It was about teaching humans to act together, to think strategically, and to resist effectively. He was not using brute force. He was using intelligence, courage, and coordination. By evening, the Thalorian forces had suffered significant setbacks. Their soldiers were frustrated, their supplies disrupted, and their communication lines unreliable. The humans had held their ground, adapted to every attack, and grown more confident with each success. Alira stood beside Mark, watching the city below. "They are incredible," she said softly. "I never imagined humans could act like this." Mark nodded. "They are more than incredible. They are unstoppable when they act together. The Empire underestimated them. That is why they will fail." As night fell, Mark gathered the humans in a hidden chamber beneath the city. He spoke quietly with calm authority. "Tonight we celebrate what we have accomplished. We have defended our city, protected our people, and shown the Empire that courage, intelligence, and unity are more powerful than fear and force. But remember, this is only the beginning. We must continue to learn, grow, and act together." The humans nodded, tired but inspired. They had faced one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy and survived. They had learned to act as one, to trust each other, and to resist with courage and intelligence. Alira stayed with Mark after the meeting. She looked at him with admiration and love. "You have done something amazing," she said. "You have shown the humans their true strength. You have changed everything." Mark smiled softly. "No, they did this themselves. I only guided them. They acted with courage, intelligence, and unity. I only helped them see what they were capable of. Alira felt a deep sense of pride. She had married a man the galaxy considered harmless, and yet he had quietly become the heart of a revolution. He had inspired humans to rise, to act together, and to show that even the smallest, seemingly weakest population could defy the most powerful empire. The next day, the Thalorian fleet withdrew temporarily to regroup. The humans of Atria were stronger, more confident, and more connected than ever. The city had survived, and the people had learned to trust each other and themselves. They had discovered that courage, cleverness, and unity were their greatest weapons. Alira turned to Mark. "They will return," she said quietly. Mark nodded. "Yes, but we will be ready. Humans do not give up easily. They adapt, they resist, and they grow stronger with every challenge. The Empire cannot break that." Alira realized that this was the truth she had been waiting to see. Humans were extraordinary. They were clever, courageous, and capable of great change. And her husband, quiet, gentle, and seemingly harmless, had been the spark that brought out the best in them. Over the next weeks, the humans continued to strengthen their network. They trained, planned, and acted together. They disrupted supply lines, protected civilians, and learned from each encounter. Their confidence grew, and so did their unity. The Thalorian Empire, frustrated by repeated failures, began to understand that this uprising could not be crushed by force alone. The humans had learned to adapt, to anticipate, and to resist. Their courage and intelligence had become their most powerful weapons. Alira watched from the palace as Mark moved through the city, checking on the humans, guiding them quietly, and adjusting strategies as needed. He did not seek glory. He did not act recklessly. He acted with patience, intelligence, and care. And the humans trusted him completely. One evening, as the sun set over Etria, Alira stood beside Mark on the palace balcony. The city below was quiet, but the energy of determination and courage was palpable. She realized that her choice was clear. She could remain loyal to the Empire, or she could stand beside the man who had shown her what true strength meant. She took his hand. "I choose you," she said softly. "I choose to stand with you and the humans. They are extraordinary, and so are you." Mark smiled, his calm green eyes meeting hers. "Then we act together," he said. "We show the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and unity can change everything." And so Princess Alira joined her husband in his efforts. Together, they inspired humans across the city and beyond. They opened communication with neighboring worlds, showing them that resistance, unity, and courage could defeat oppression. The humans of Etria grew stronger every day. They learned, adapted, and acted together with skill and courage. They had discovered their own strength, guided by the peaceful husband the Empire had underestimated. Emperor Voran and the Thalorian Empire eventually realized that humans were not just capable of defiance. They were capable of change, growth, and unity that could not be broken by fear or force. The Empire had underestimated the power of hope, courage, and cleverness, and now they were paying the price. Mark did not seek power or glory. He had only sought to awaken the courage within humans to show them what they could achieve together. Princess Alira understood that this was the true heart of HFY, the strength of humans, their intelligence, their courage, and their unity. As the city of Etria thrived, Alira looked at her husband proud and grateful. He had started as a gentle, quiet man underestimated by all, and now he was the spark of a revolution, the teacher of courage and the leader of humans who had discovered their own extraordinary potential.